Going back a few years, Wayne Souder, did you ever meet him?
He was not. I think he might have been number one in the country one time. He was like when I was a young kid, he was one of the top bowlers, and he was a little short guy, and he threw a sort of a big screwball. He had a big screwball, but he was deadly accurate with it. But anyway, he quit bowling for 8 or 10 years or something. All of a sudden, he made a comeback. Came back to bowling. I'm probably only 20 couple at the most. Not even that. I'm not even that old. I'm probably 18, 19 or something like that. And he ended up coming back and he bowled Monday night at Parkland. They had a big major league at Parkland on Monday nights, and Thursday night he bowled with Hank Howard and Shorty Diver in the majors at PG Plaza. And they picked him up back then it was like a 640 limit for a 5-man team. So he was a new bowler because he hadn't bowled in 10 years or whatever it was. So they picked him up at 128. And that year he comes back, his first year back in 10 years, he ends up carrying like his third or fourth high average in the league behind Hank Shorty and maybe one other guy, maybe. He carries close to 140. And then he bowled Monday night at Parkland. Parkland fell better. PG hadn't been souped up yet. This was probably 75 or 6 or whatever. And he carried close to 150 at Parkland. It was unreal. So I think he might have ranked top 3 or so in the city. But that was really an accomplishment. I mean, really a big accomplishment back 45 years ago, you know. And because you had Hank and Shorty were the top dogs, and then I guess Wayne Souder fell in line somewhere, and he'd been out of bowling for 10 years. But he was like Mayhew. Both of them had been number ones. And then when he came back, though, he was still tough. And he came back and only bowled like a year, maybe 2. And then he was dropped out again. But he was good, man. He was dynamite. He was dynamite.
Wow.
Yeah.
You just mentioned Bobby Mayhew. Maybe you can give me a little bit of info on him.
Yeah, I didn't know him that well, but like I say, I met him through other bowlers, and because when he made his comeback, he had dropped out of bowling too, also like Souder, for years, and he came back years later, and this guy, you just watch him bowl. Do you remember how smooth Bob Wilson was? Do you remember him?
I saw a little bit of Bob Wilson part of his career.
Yeah, and anyway, this guy was just as smooth as could be. And then when he made his comeback, he's probably only 40-ish, 40 couple, 30s, high 30s, maybe 40s. And he's just as smooth as could be. He just wasn't as deadly as he once was, I guess, as deadly accurate as he once was. But he was dynamite. And like I say, then I used to hang a little bit with Joe Gaddis. Used to work for my mom over at PG Plaza, and him and he used to have a lot of confidence in me, and he'd bet on me in pot bowl, and we bowled together against. So anyway, Joe Gaddis and I bowled against Bobby Mayhew and Rich Downey, but they were like bowling at Parkland. They were bowling Parkland bowlers. We bowled them at Parkland, but Mayhew was one of these guys. He was a talker. He could really run it. He could really ratchet jaw. Just trying to get under your skin a little bit and that kind of stuff. There used to be a lot of that in the old days. A lot of old bowlers would, like to run their mouth and just gnaw at you a little bit. And me being a young kid, I wasn't used to all that kind of stuff. But Joe Gaddis was just sure he could run his mouth with the best of them. So Mayhew and Gaddis are back and forth running their mouth. But anyway, Joe Gaddis bowled like a champ. We ended up smoking them guys, beating them over at Parkland, and mainly due to Joe's good bowling. I mean, I bowled okay, I guess, but Joe Gaddis was just shooting the lights out, and we were winning some money. Back then, it might have been $10 a game. Who knows? But that was probably 35 years ago, probably.
Right.
Something like that. Yeah. So it probably would. Probably at least that long. It might have been a little longer than that even. But Mayhew. So I met him. I sort of met him on lanes a couple times. And talked to him a little bit, but he was mostly over at Parkland. I was at PG usually, and maybe Glenmont and stuff like that. So I didn't know him real well, but I saw him bowling, and you could tell he was the real deal. He had the goods, You could just watch this guy and say, man, I mean, he really just had a flawless delivery and style, and so I can't imagine how good he was when he was really on his game or in his heyday. But
yeah.
But I mean, once you sit out 5-10 years, you're almost bound to get a little rusty. You would think. And,
Right.
He's another one that only came back bowl for another year or two, though. He didn't. Once they came back, him and Souder, different years, came back bowling, but they didn't really stick around much too long. You know,
Yeah.
once they made their comeback. But I'd say Souder's comeback was probably stronger than Mayhew's. I mean, Souder
Oh.
was. I mean, he was just guns a-blazing, man. He was hitting them. He was hitting them.
Yeah. And you mentioned Joe Gaddy. There was Ralph Gaddy also.
Ralph Gaddis, his dad was a top flight bowler, bowled the Pro Tour when I was a little kid. And matter of fact, I remember his dad, Pro Tour used to come to PG Plaza every year, my mom's place, where she worked. Back then she was the day manager. But the Pro Tour used to come there ever since, at least when they opened, they used to come there. I can remember Dave Volk winning the Pro Tour there in 1964. I'm like 8 years old or something. And I remember Ralph Gaddy, one of those years, being a high qualifier, you know, shooting like over 1,700 for 12 games, which is a big number. 1,700 was huge back then, back in the mid-'60s. And because 1,680 would be a 140 average. So yeah, and the cut was probably, I don't even know what the cut might have been. Probably 1,600 or 1,620 or 40. Probably a 130 some average made the cut, but I think even that was a big number back in that day.
Right.
But yeah, Ralph Gaddy, he was a good bowler, and I think he bowled even at Severna Park too. He's like 75 or 80, I think, before he passed away. He was still bowling. Obviously wasn't doing that well, but he was still, shooting 120s and 125, 130. He ended up. Joe lived around Wheaton with his mom, and then Ralph ended up eventually living down Severna Park somewhere down that way, and he ended up bowling down there in a couple of leagues. And